hang 6 meters in the air, upside down, in a straight jacket. I have 1 minute to escape before the rope holding 2 big giant jaws come crashing down on me. Wow. It's a pure escape act. I'm a professional illusionist for the last 25 years. The last 7 years, I started moving into the theatre and business, where I manage a venue now and I run a non-profit arts company. The main thing is to always be bold to try new things. If we are stuck in the regime, we will never have an opportunity to be creative. I want to say that people in management has to be creative, especially if they want to stretch the dollar and make things work. One thing that I always loved about magic is not about thinking in a linear line. That's what I have brought into my company. What we want to do is that we want to shape how our next generation is, whether our young people are going to be mentally resilient, whether what they do in school, their sports, how people speak into their life. We want to use our shows to speak into the lives of young people. What value can we add to the people that's creating this art? We wanted to stand in the gap in Singapore in the art scene and about giving back and building up the next generation. Recently, we just closed a show called Third Man Syndrome. This show, it was talking about suicide. It was a very risky production. I was thinking, would anyone come to a suicide show? I was really worried. Would the show resonate with people?
Priscilla, how are you?
Thank you for having me here, Paul. I'm good.
I'm so excited. You know, every time I speak to you, I just smile. You know?
Well, thank you.
Now, for the people that may not know you from my audience, can you be kind enough just to give a quick introduction as to who you are?
Well, I'm Priscilla Khong. Right now, I'm the executive director of 3 companies: Gateway Entertainment, Gateway Theatre, and Gateway Arts. Obviously, from the names, you know that I'm the arts and entertainment industry.
Yeah. And how did that all come to pass? Because what I want to do is I want to turn back the pages of time, because unusually, you worked as a magician, right, for many years. How many years?
Well, I'm a professional illusionist for the last 25 years. Wow. And in the last 7 years, I started taking over I started moving into the theatre and business, where that's why I manage a venue now and I run a non-profit arts company.
Well, you know, like a lot of my audience is from the private banking sector, and they have to deal with multi-generational wealth and, you know, how fathers and mothers work with their children. It's not easy. And you worked with your dad. It's been, 25 years, right?
25 years and going.
And going.
Yeah.
And your dad's so charismatic. He's a very strong personality, lovely man. But how do you find that? Because I can't, if you ask my kids, do you want to work with daddy for 25 years? They will run in the opposite direction. So how did that come to pass?
Well, it started because after my A-levels, my dad asked me, what do you want to study? And I was like, I'm not really sure. So, I mean, I had enrolled, I was going to do a business degree. And he said, well, if you're still not certain, why don't you take 1 year off? I'm starting a entertainment company. Would you like to just try it out?
Oh, he hadn't set it up then?
Yeah, it was being set up. So I actually joined as an intern in the year 2000. And that became the path for the rest of my life. So at first I thought I would not be working so closely with my dad.
Yeah.
He should be doing his own thing. Yeah. And I'm like under a director working on movies and productions. I thought that'd be fine, right? That's how it started, but that's not how it ended.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But so you're telling me you didn't do this growing up as a kid? Because that's what I had thought.
Well, growing up as a kid, I loved the theater, I loved dance, I loved music, because I was doing all those.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what I was going to study as for a career, you know?
That's mad.
Yeah.
Very few people have the courage to follow their passion. You know, what was the key behind that? I think it would have helped with your dad's, guidance.
Well, okay, that's very strange, because I jumped into it because I didn't know what else I was wanting to do.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the starting point. And what started as being in the movie industry moved into doing magic and illusions, because my dad said, hey, there's an opportunity. I'm going to do a live show. I need somebody to help me. You're it. And so I was like, okay, I'm it since I'm working for you, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that actually I enjoyed being on stage. And with that, we started going to Vegas to train under all the masters of illusionists. I have great mentors from Vegas.
So unpack that. How did that even start? Like, so your dad reached out to these guys, said, this is what we're looking to do?
Yeah, so we started with one show, which we put together on our own. And we realized that he wanted to use magic to talk about values, about our belief, and which we were focusing on a father-daughter relationship, which actually is because we realize that in this time and age, there's always a growing divide between families and relationships. And we wanted to use storytelling, magic, to be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
So we reached out to people. We started making connections with illusion builders, with illusionists themselves. And we actually found like mentors. Yeah.
Wow.
In magic. So one of my favorite mentors is Jeff McBride, and he was the one who taught me the art of storytelling through magic, and that magic is not just about the trick itself. It's about the connections you form and what we communicate through our art. And that was the one thing that got me hooked into it, and that's how I journeyed into magic for the next, till now.
Till now. Your dad to me is a Renaissance man. I have never met anyone your dad's age. How old's your dad now?
73.
With as much gusto as him. So when you guys were kind enough to invite me to the polo club, we were doing a walk around, he was telling me how some of the other riders from the international teams can get quite aggressive and say quite visceral things to him. And, he's such a lovely, obliging man, but I could see the tiger in him when he came out, and he's still riding today, and he's in fantastic shape. And when you see people like your dad and you that have tried their hand at different things, I like to think I'm similar. It's rare. Most people, like if you're a banker, you're a lawyer, that's what you do, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But when you try different things, it's a little bit scary. But I think life is not meant to be bland. You want to enjoy it, right?
Yes.
So now, before we go on to this, you got a magic trick. Let's get it in first.
Well, yes, we'll do a magic trick, but it's not a trick. It's really a game of imagination.
All right.
Are you ready for it?
I'm a bit scared. Okay.
Let's try this. Hold out your hand.
Okay.
Now, we're going to play a game. I want you to imagine that in your hand, you're holding the 4 queens.
All right, 4 queens.
4 queens. Now, in this game of imagination, I'm going to take out 2 queens of the same color.
Okay.
In this game, are they the red queens or the black queens?
I can tell you now?
Yeah, you can tell me now.
Definitely the red queens.
Red queens?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Now, with the red queens, I'm going to take 1 queen. I'm holding the red queens, and I'm going to take 1 queen and turn it face up.
Okay.
In this game, is it the queen of hearts or the queen of diamonds?
Definitely the queen of diamonds.
Definitely the queen of diamonds.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to put them back in with the queen of diamonds face up, and I'm going to show you just how good your imagination is.
Okay.
You ready for it?
All right.
I'm going to take this out. I'm going to spread this. Just look here.
Wow.
The queen of diamonds is faced up. But wait, hang on about it. I'm going to show you that you were thinking only about the queen of diamonds right from the start.
Yeah.
That this is the only red card.
Wow.
And the rest did not even bother to appear.
That's amazing. So this is just to show the camera. I don't know if you guys are picking this up. You want to show?
Which camera?
This camera. We'll try this camera. Show the queen of diamonds the other way around. Oh. Okay, that's amazing. You know what? You got me a little bit nervous when you said, 4 queens. I thought if my wife's listening to this, there's only 1 queen. That's her. Will I get into trouble?
Well, you won't get into trouble because it's just in your imagination.
That was an amazing trick. Well done.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
But what worries me is that I'm so easy to read.
No, I don't think so. I think you actually have a mind of your own. So don't worry about that. It's very fun.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you guys blow me away. When illusionists do what you do, it's pretty spectacular. So let's talk a little bit about the genesis of what you're doing now, because one of the reasons why we became friends is because, I also have a love and a passion for the theater. Mm-hmm. Did you know that that's what you wanted to do in school?
No, actually, I was one of those clueless kids. I had no purpose, no aim, no motivation in life. I was just cruising along. And that's why my dad actually got me to start and work with him, because he was worried about me.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to have an entry point to see, was there something that I took to? And actually, I did take to it when I was working with him, because I had the opportunity not just to work on illusion shows. I worked on movies, productions, TV shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was working with directors where I started right from ground zero. I was the intern that was bringing the coffee, taking the notes, making the photo stacks, and at the same time learning all about what it takes to put a movie together and working from the pre all the way to the post.
And this was in Singapore?
This was in Singapore in the year 2000. Wow. So that was my journey. I started as a production assistant to a coordinator, And finally, I worked my way up to actually producing my own smaller events, being a performer. And throughout the whole journey, I was also teaching magic and doing corporate shows and corporate events. I think it was in that journey that it helped me hone in that I was actually searching for purpose and meaning through what I do.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being a job, but about how can I use what I'm interested in, passionate about, to maybe influence or help people. And I think that that's what my dad was also about. And I think that that was one thing that really rubbed off on me.
Yeah, resonated, right?
Yeah, it really resonated. So that's why at Gateway Arts, we use theatre productions to discuss social issues faced by children, youths, and young adults. Recently, we just closed the show called Third Man Syndrome.
How was it?
It was amazing. Now,
I'm sorry I couldn't go.
yeah, I really wanted you to
I wanted to
come.
bring my son, right? And he couldn't
Yeah.
look out of the army.
It's okay. But this show, it was talking about suicide. The header was, why did he jump? So personally, it was a very risky production. I was thinking, would anyone come to a suicide show? Is that going to entice people to come?
Yeah.
At the same time, the show, my director took a very trippy and far out the way imagining the show. And I was really worried, like, would the show resonate with people? Wow, we were sold out.
Wow.
We were not just sold out, but people not only came to see the show, 3/4 of the audience actually stayed back for the post-show discussion, which was unpacking issues about mental wellness, some of the unanswered questions, or things about how can they be there for a friend in need. Because the fact is like in Singapore right now,
It's
1 in 4 people are struggling with mental wellness issues, whether it's depression, anxiety.
yeah.
We have 1 in 5 youths who actually practice self-harm, which is actually very worrying.
I think Singapore in Southeast Asia has the highest suicide rate for young men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, the stats is that 64% of all suicide are men, because when a male decides to end his own life, they want to make sure it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad because, I mean, why I wanted to come to that show in particular was I've known a couple of people, 2 men that have killed themselves. One in particular shocked me because I had him around in my house for dinner with his wife and a friend 3 weeks before it happened. And on the surface of it, he was fine. There's a very powerful advert where, I don't know if you've seen it, there are 2 guys watching a soccer match.
Yes.
Right. And it's the guy that is the most, engaging.
Yeah.
And he's the one. And I've suffered from depression for many years. And I think it's partly a chemical imbalance. Right. So what I find is exercise helps me with it. But it's very powerful. And I would imagine that the people stayed back. How old were they? I'm just curious. Were they like our age? Were they parents, or was it across the board?
It was across the board, but we had some shows where I was surprised to see everybody looking as though they were under 35, which was great, because these are the people that we really want to reach out to. And I think that that's the power of theatre. It's a starting point for conversations.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we strongly believe in. And that's why we not only just do shows about suicide, we go across the board. It started off as being about social issues. So it could have been anything.
Yeah.
We started doing shows about migrant workers at the past because we wanted to talk about empathy, understanding, kindness. Now we had moved towards mental wellness actually since COVID started. So we do shows that's talking about anxiety. We have shows that's, specifically about depression. Our upcoming show, Brainstorm, is about how the youth brain works. Because if we think that in society there's a growing disconnect, what we want to do is foster understanding. We want to build new connections, bridge conversations. And that's what the show Brainstorm is about. It's firstly understanding how youths think, how our teenagers think.
And it's different now, right?
Yes.
Everything is different now.
It's very different. And I think that we want to start from a scientific point. Why they work and why they think the way they do, it's because actually their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. They are going based more on feelings and that's why the amygdala wants them to ride on this high, and it's not their fault. And sometimes maybe as parents, we don't understand and we respond to them thinking that they should be a rational adult or a rational teen, but they're not wired that way yet.
Yeah.
So it's really wanting to help parents understand their teens, and actually teens understand that it's okay, that's part of their development.
When is this Brainstorm coming out?
It's coming out this end October.
Okay, I'd love to go with my wife because I struggle with that more than she does as a parent. She's an amazing mom. We got 3 kids, as you know, 2 of them are teenagers, but the amount of pressure they're under is very different now, and it's very difficult. And then the show that you graciously asked me to come with my daughter Ivana, when we went to go and watch it, what was interesting was she didn't know what the evening was about, and she became transfixed, and she really enjoyed it. Right. And because at first she goes, oh, I'm going with daddy to a work function. Right. And she was a little bit shy, as you know, but it was a wonderful production. Now, do you ever direct any of the shows yourself?
No, I'm the executive director and not the director.
So you've never done it?
No, because what I do is I look at the concept and at the company level, what are the things that we want to communicate and what we do. And I'm actually always the fundraising person.
Which is the hardest thing, right? Arguably.
Yes.
But can you influence the director about who they put in the show?
Oh, yes, of course. That's something that we continually talk about, because I'm not only the executive director of the company, I'm actually the producer of all these shows as well.
You know why I'm saying this to you, or where I'm going with this, is because
you want to put you in the show.
I want to be the lead. Yeah, I have to be the lead, by the way. Let's be very clear on this. And by the way, I don't audition.
Yeah.
I turn up and then I get the role.
Well, actually, usually we cast young actors under 35. However, if we need a parent role, we will definitely consider you.
Oh, you've got me hard. But the one thing that I fell in love with acting because it's very visceral. No one night is the same. It doesn't matter how well you've rehearsed. And the thing about it is, it's very magic. It's like, you know what it is? It's like live sports. You can't replicate it. Like, I love the movies, don't get me wrong. And then there are people, I don't know about you, do you prefer musicals or plays? Because I've always preferred plays.
Both. It really depends on the story, right? It's not just about the song, it's about the story. I totally understand about how each show is always it's like a live sport. It is never exactly the same. Because for the last 20 years I used to perform live, touring and performing live, and we've had shows where there were major something just happens and you have to we on the spot. So I'm going to share with you one of the biggest boo-boos that we had on a live show before.
Go on.
So we have this illusion where it's like a big water tank. It's huge, okay?
Oh, this sounds scary.
Yeah. And this was in the Dallas Live Music Hall. And what happened was that the hatch...
In Texas,
okay. The hatch didn't close properly.
Oh, shucks.
And it started to rotate. And on stage, we had 20 gallons of water spill out.
Oh, shucks. On stage?
On stage.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so can you imagine? This is a magic musical illusion show.
Yeah.
So this is storyline. And it was part of it that somebody goes, my dad was put inside, he's going to be tortured, and he's going to be killed, right? So now... yeah.
Poor dad.
Oh, and what happens is that in this thing, the water has spilled on the stage.
Yeah.
Now we can't do that illusion. Now the whole stage is wet. We're thinking, what on earth are we going to do?
Yeah.
Right? So, and I'm on the side of the wing. The next scene is supposed to be somebody is grabbing me and showing me look at this. They're threatening me about what's happening with my dad.
Yeah.
So I just say, everybody had frozen, and I just said, grab me and throw and lunge me onto the stage and say, look at this. And so we were winging it all the way for the second half of the act. Yeah.
Amazing.
And everybody thought that it was an effect. That the water running down the stage was an effect.
Yeah.
But that was a very expensive
I bet.
mistake.
Afterwards, post-production, cleaning up.
The cleaning up and damage and everything. And that was wow.
Now, I've seen a picture of you doing the side splits, right?
Yeah.
With what do you call it?
Oh, the aerial silk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so did you do dance in school?
Well, yes, as like a CCA in school.
Oh,
but...
so not, because can you still do the splits?
Yeah, I can still do the splits, but I'm not going to do it on camera.
Are you going to do it across? Are you going to do it across this?
Across the chairs.
But you could do it in theory.
Yeah,
still.
Of course, I can still do it now.
I can barely touch my toes now.
Hey, you're a sportsman. You're supposed to be flexible.
I was a sportsman. I'm not anymore. No. But yeah, I always had problems with flexibility. So that's fascinating to me. Now let's talk a little bit about, because why I find it very interesting is most your theatre companies will put on traditional shows. It could be Ibsen, Chekhov, all the classics and what have you. But yours has a very social impact. You know, the meaning behind it. Was that a conscious decision on day one, or has it evolved to become that?
It was a very conscious decision. So when I took over the companies, one thing I said with this theatre company, I wanted to not do arts for art's sake. I mean, there's a lot of amazing plays out there, and there's a lot of amazing companies out there. So I wanted to do something different that I believed in, that I could do for the next 20 years. And I said, I think the one thing was that my father's spirit, I've inherited my father's spirit. I want to really give back. I want to give back to society. I want to do good. I want to help build a resilient next generation. And that's why we wanted to talk about social issues that plague children and youth in this generation. And it's not specific just to mental wellness. We want to be flexible. We want to be able to change with times. And that's why we kept it broad as social issues. And the thing is that I'm a parent. I have a 22-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. They're like at the end of the spectrums.
Yes. And she's very cute, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
And I realized that they are both very different. And I had a son who was more not wanting to talk about his emotions. He always seems very happy. And I was always very worried because as a 16-year-old, he said to me, I hate emotions. I want to like shove it down and I don't want to feel anything. And I'm like going like red flags are like coming up my brain, right? Like what I'm going to do if he faced something difficult. And I realized that for all of us, not just our children, is that how can we be better emotionally regulated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But before being better emotionally regulated, we first need to identify our emotions. And that's something very hard for us in general. And I think that comes back to the disconnect we have in society, whether it's within ourselves, within our families. And I realized that it's how can we learn this language? And I think that theatre has this ability to not teach, but to maybe communicate these values by letting people first understand and go through that through the play. Yeah.
You know what I found though? I think it's one of the challenges you're going to face is getting young men, macho men, into watch a play. Because when I did theatre, what happened was I was in high school and I got badly injured, so I was out of sports for at least 6 months. And I was used to going out before school, break time, lunchtime, play sports. And I set up the drama club right at high school. But actually I did it because it was my way of meeting girls. And I got a lot of the guys took the mick out of me because they thought it was a very effeminate thing to be doing. And I said, in the contrary, right? But why I mention that is when I go to the UK or New York, I'll always go and try and watch something. But to get someone to come with me, one of my male friends, it's almost impossible. I have to wrangle them in. But like, how do you find that's a challenge for you guys? Or you think now more boys are going?
Wow. I think traditionally it's still the same.
Yeah.
Like when I look at the people who come, it's usually always still 60% female, 40% guys.
Yeah.
And usually the guys are there to accompany the girls.
Yes.
Yeah. However, I think it's based on the content. If the content is good
and it speaks to them.
And it speaks to them, they would introduce it to their friends as well. Now, the thing is that because if we're looking about shows that target young adults and youth, the truth is, how many teenagers come to the theater on their own?
Yeah.
Not many, right? It's not a pop concert. They're not gonna like wonder, I want to buy tickets on that for myself.
Yeah.
So it's about getting the families to come as a unit, and it's actually building that database of people who actually believe in the work we do or see that we do good entertainment.
Yeah.
And if they realize that it's good entertainment while having while promoting a value, maybe in the future they will be the next clientele.
Yeah, I love that. Talk a little bit about, your storytelling and how that your philosophy has channeled that. Because what I find is, I'm a sales guy. Storytelling to me is the art of human connection and interaction. But I always find that the best storytellers, there's a philosophy behind what they're trying to share. Do you find the same thing for you? It shapes what you do?
I always feel about when we share something, we have to share something that's true to ourselves.
Yeah.
And as we are sharing, we don't want to preach. We want to just be authentic. I think that's the one thing that theater that why I love theatre.
Yeah.
It's because when we are performing or we are staging the show, we are trying to create this authentic connections between the cast and within the play. And if we manage to do that, people take away the emotions, the feelings that resonates with them. And I think that that's the best we can do. Because I don't think theatre or art is supposed to force a message down somebody's throat.
No.
Usually different people take away different things from the show itself.
100%.
And I think that's what we want to do.
How deep has some of your sensitive topics gone? Like, what are the most risque ones that you've done other than the suicide?
It's really depression and suicide right now. So topics that we want to talk about is like things like body dysmorphia, acceptance of oneself. And I think actually they're all around the same.
You know, because what happened was I had a guest on the show, on the podcast called Camille Huck, who set up the first acting agency here. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, wow, really?
Years ago, yeah. And he studied in LA, and I met him because I had engaged his company to train my staff in Singapore and Hong Kong on sales. And, you know, he's now doing a lot of this. Please take a drink. Oh, yeah. He's doing a lot of this with corporate development, because for me, the two are inextricably linked, because doing role plays, you know, improvisation and what have you, and you're going to laugh. So when I reached out to him before the podcast, I'd even set it up. I said, hey, bro, I'm thinking of doing some acting. Can I come and buy you a coffee? He goes, yeah. And I said, what do you think? And I said, I want you to put a play on and you put me in one of the lead roles. He goes, okay, but you haven't done acting since, you know, your college years. I said, yeah, but I'm good. And then he goes,
I love your confidence.
I'm 100% confident. Then he goes, yeah, but they're going to be professional actors. And I said, okay, that's fine. And he said, but they do this for a living. You don't do it. And I said, mate, let me just tell you, how I do anything is how I do everything. So I'm not worried about that. But then what he started saying was the amount of time involved. I said, well, I can't take that much time off work. I've still got to function. So then he said to me, he goes, well, you know, twice a year I put on this thing where I get my top students to do like a 1.5 minute monologue storytelling. I said, okay, cool. He goes, so you have to audition for it? I said, mate, I don't audition. Right now, I tell you 2 stories right now, and then you tell me whether or not I can do it, right? And I'm not coming across as an arsehole, but I believe in myself, right? And let's go, no problem. So I did it and had him in stitches. He goes, okay, you can do it. And I said, no, I don't want to do it other people. I want to be the person running things, because that's how I am. I run my own business. So then he said, I want you to do a one-man play, a one-person play. And I said, now that sounds very scary. That scared me. So I said, let's look into it. He gave me 3 plays to read, but the problem was the subject matter was, one of them, it alluded to, he wouldn't let me watch it, I had to read it. It alluded to the father was abusing his daughter. I said, I can't do that. He goes, why? I said, if I'm only doing 1 play for the rest of my life, I'm going to be remembered for that play. You know, I'm not doing 20 plays and there's a body of work. But why it made me think, because when I was in college, you know, one of those topics was sexual abuse in the home, right? And there was other topics. And I remember reading about this, thinking at a time, these are so powerful, right? You can't but help move people. And in fact, one of the plays I went to watch had it, and actually people left after the interval because it was so uncomfortable. But that's, to me, as long as it depends, if it's done in a tasteful way, when something is so powerful that it moves you to tears or to the point where you're leaving, you know it's had impact. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally understand.
I love it. That's why I love, and I'm not joking. I told you, I go to plays. Every time I'm in London, I'll go and see 1 or 2 plays, or the same in New York. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about...
So, but just now, as you were saying, about how far am I willing to bring some of our topics to?
Yeah.
I think as a young company, I'm growing into that. Excuse me.
Sure.
However, if you jump too far in, you're not going to be able to get mainly the schools or the main mass of the young people to come, especially if your rating goes up to NC16, RA21.
Yeah.
And so then we miss the target. So one thing about it, it's finding that balance.
Yeah.
It's about pushing the topic, but ensuring that the general public can still come for the shows, especially with Singapore's strict regime on our performance and
that
entertainment.
play that Varner and I came to watch did exactly that. because it was lighthearted, but it was meaningful. It made you think and pause. You know, at the end of it, you did really think, wow, this had impact.
So, like, jumping into what you watched an excerpt of Brainstorm, which is the show that we're going to be staging.
Oh, that's an excerpt?
October.
Oh,
That was
really?
an excerpt of
Oh, I didn't
Brainstorm.
realize. Okay.
And the great thing about that is that this show in October is written by testimonies from youths in this generation, in this day in Singapore themselves. We took everything that they are saying, their struggles, and we put it into a play. Because we believe that to be relevant, we need to reflect what's going on in society.
Right. Now, you own this company?
Well, I manage it, but I don't own
You
the
don't
company.
own it?
Yeah.
Why I asked is because my podcast is about career journeys and transitions. So you've gone from working with your dad to doing this. What was behind that trend? Like you said, listen, 25 years, it's time to move on. And then what were you thinking?
Okay. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
I was very happy being a magician and a corporate performer because I had a lot of space for creativity. I get to just dream what I wanted to do and stage it.
Yeah.
So I came to a place that the current CEO, so jumping in again, I now run 3 different entities. At the time, I was just a performer. I did produce and I do things more on the creative aspect than the management aspect. So what happened was that somebody stepped out and said that, no, I can't do this anymore. And so a staff of mine actually said, these entities have become like an unwanted child. Like nobody wants to take ownership of it. And that actually hit home for me. And I said, no, I don't like hearing that there's any unwanted children. If nobody wants these companies, I'll take them. I will manage them.
Wow.
And my dad was very also surprised that I would have said that because he knows me. I'm sort of more of like a light-hearted, go with the wind, go with the flow kind of person.
Yeah.
So to be able to buckle down and take up a management role was something that he didn't expect from me, and neither did I. However, I thought for myself at that point, if I want to see change or if I want to do something differently, then I need to start taking charge because that's how I am able to shape
I love it.
the destiny of the company, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I took over both Gateway Theatre and Gateway Arts at that same time. So with Gateway Theatre, which is our performing arts center, now we've really become a art center in the suburbs, because it's at Bukit Merah.
Yeah.
However, we have a lot of youth competitions, a lot of all the Singapore Youth Festival shows that are taking place in our space.
And it's a great space.
It's a great space. It's a 9-story building. We have 2 performing arts venues, which is the main theater and the Black Box, which you were in.
Yeah.
And we have lots of the dance studios and studio spaces. We want the whole place to be bustling with young people. And I think that that's why I made the shift, so I can actually position what we are doing and be able to influence. If for me it's the next generation, then how can I get all the young people to be at our spaces and come to our shows?
Are you able to gauge and measure the kind of impact that you're making? Because I would imagine it's not easy to do that.
Well, yes, impact measurement is very hard, and that's something we've been starting at our nonprofit. So I know I'm jumping between the entities, but at Gateway Arts, so we are starting out all impact measurements. I've actually hired professional companies like CEI Global so that they come on board and do these measurements alongside with us. Because if we're measuring change, and especially in the aspect of mental wellness, it's not just about the number of people who came to see the show, right?
Yeah.
So it's about putting in that process and the rigor, and which is something that we've just started on. It's very interesting to see how we to do those data measurements.
Yeah, it is, right? Because I think it's what people are going away and saying, right? Because when I left that show, I went away and I talked about it. And I think that's important, right? And thought about it as well. What about, your personal values? Because I think core to what you're doing is education, right? And I think that can be overlooked in what a lot of us are doing, but you're helping guide, the next generation and parents like myself. Again, is that something that you're sitting down and you're having to consciously think about? Does it create pressure for you?
Well, yes and no. The one thing that I've always thought is that who am I to actually be teaching other people? However, through this process, I realized that if I be authentic to myself and share my stories and use my reflections to communicate my values to people, well, hopefully it can impact just one person. And if one person can connect with what I'm saying, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
The one thing that my children said when they met you, and Tyler in particular, she said, you're one of the kindest people she's ever met. and it wasn't just through your actions that time we interacted, but she felt it, you know. And that's and that my daughter sees people. She has a gift where, you know, where I feel I've got that gift as well. When you meet people and you can tell what they're like. So I don't know, I'm sure you've got that feedback before.
Well, I get very embarrassed when people tell me that because I've never thought that I am.
Really?
Yeah.
But you're a serial killer, is
Yes,
it?
I'm a serial killer. I just want to like, no, it's not true. It's just that I guess what I'm saying is that I don't actively think about that.
Yeah.
However, I'm thankful that if people say that, which means hopefully I'm doing something right.
That's wonderful, right? It's the biggest compliment you can possibly get. Now, one of the things that I realize when I speak to a lot of people is that they get to burnout in the corporate world where they're not getting a chance to be creative. And where I'm going with this is this. I feel all children have an artist in them, a musician in them, a sports person in them. But, you know, we all drew when we were kids or painted. And then when you get older, that level of creativity goes from 100% to 20 or 30%. And it kind of we all feel like it's gone. Now, you're the other way around. You're becoming more and more creative. You're finding different outlets. What advice can you give to the rest of us about, you know, finding that inner creative person?
The main thing is to always be bold to try new things. If we are stuck in the regime, we will never break out. We will never have an opportunity to be creative. It doesn't need to be something like starting to paint. It could have been as simple as going for a cooking class.
Yeah.
Or it's just about doing something different from your usual routine. And I think that that's very important for all of us. I don't think that I've necessarily become more creative. I felt I have to be more responsible and buckle down. However, I want to say that people in management has to be creative, especially if they want to stretch the dollar and make things work.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we neglect or we don't think about it.
Speak on that. That's a very interesting point. Share with me your observations and your wisdom there, because that's a great point.
Well, I think that accountants, bankers, lawyers are creative because they're trying to creatively solve problems.
Yeah.
That's what engineers are from the olden days.
Yeah, 100%.
They were trying to find solutions to problems and create things. That is creativity at its core. It's about thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
One thing that I always loved about magic, and that's where my heart and root is from, it's because magic is not about thinking in a linear line. It's not about thinking about how to go from A to B to C to D. And that's why maybe magic connected with me. It's because I always wanted to think, how can I do it differently?
Yeah.
And that's what I have brought into my company. And whether it's about putting up a show. However, I think that the regimen of learning the steps or like the proper way of management is an important thing, because only when you have that understanding, then you can think, how can I do it differently? If you don't have that foundation, you can't do things differently.
What made me laugh was it was your uncle that invited me to your show, and then a very good friend of his who is a good friend of mine. These are two very senior, staunch bankers, right, that have led big businesses for many years, and because they were in my line of sight for some of the show, and what made me laugh was I could see the child in both of them. They were enjoying the show. And normally I would think of these guys, they're quite staunch, you know, and that was the wonderful thing about your play, right? It really captured, because my 10-year-old daughter was enjoying the same stuff they were. It's like watching Tom and Jerry you know what I mean? That's the power of all of this. When you think about what the youth needs of today, right? Because it's changing so rapidly. Are you speaking to some of the younger people in your team to find out, you know, what is on the pulse of society now? Because, you know, like now social bullying is happening in a very different way. You have Instagram, you have people having, you know, fake numbers, you know, hidden group chats and stuff like that. But how are you doing that research?
Well, like I said, for Brainstorm, we actually went down to do workshops with lots of youths. And the one thing that resonated, or that was similar with across all the different groups of people, is that the one thing that they want, it's acceptance from their parents. Whether they had it or not, they wanted that acceptance, they wanted that respect and that connection.
Yeah.
Whether they were doing well in school or they were terrible in school, it was always the same thing.
Yeah.
And it comes back down to understanding. I think that if there's love and understanding in the family, it helps ride out all the difficult things that the youths are facing, because bullying will be around. anxiety from school, change. It's always there.
Yeah.
But what they need is that stability and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very powerful, and we all want that. We all want our parents to be proud of us, right? What advice would you give to young theatre practitioners that were thinking of setting up their own production, or actors that are thinking about doing something like this? Because why I mention that is this: you have from day one not been in a regular corporate job, and I feel like why I mention that is that look at my son; he wants to be a movie director. Sorry. And
you have to send him to us.
I think,
get him to do an internship with us.
Yeah, I think he would love to. And the interesting thing, thank you, is that he, I've analyzed this. So when he went to SOTA, School of the Arts, and the parents of the children, I found that they had this common thread. And that was that they were very open-minded. Because a lot of parents, as you know, will say, you're going to become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. And for the parents that I met, they're very open-minded. They want their kids to be happy. They want them to try different things. But, in the world that I am in, which is executive search, dealing with bankers, it's very different. And what worries me, I've got 3 kids, you've got 2. It's like, how do you give them the freedom, the confidence, and the comfort level to go into something new? So I guess my question is what advice have you got for young people that are coming up, that are thinking, okay, do I go the safe way, or do I go perhaps the less conventional route, where there's a little bit more risk?
Well, it first comes back down to thinking what is your need of that moment. So for people who have a bit more privilege and have the safety from the family, you can go and try everything and you want. Like, try it when you're young, because you have a family to fall back on.
That's a very valid point.
For people who do not, I think it's really about then looking, do you have the space to follow your passion? That's a very practical way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But if you do not, and passion drives you, then still go for it. And then find those companies, find that those smaller groups or collectives that will be able to support you or give you a starting point, a platform to journey with you. I think that's important, that you can't do it alone. I mean, yes, you can write a script on your own, but how are you going to get your script out and how are you going to get it? So join a residency, take part in the different programs that are out there. We have more and more programs in Singapore, and I think that by putting your work out there and getting known, then that's one way that you will be able to find that starting point for yourself.
Some of the actors that you had in that show that I watched, what made me smile was at the end when you introduced them and what their real ages were and what they were doing. And what I love is when if you met a couple of those guys, you would have no clue if you met them on the street, for example, or in a coffee shop, that they were doing something like that. Because it takes a lot of courage, right? When you're out there on stage, it's a very intimidating thing for those that haven't done it. But what I love, because I come from a very humble family, and you're right, like I chose a slightly more conventional way because I didn't have the financial freedom to take the risk. So you touch upon a really brilliant point. Talk to me a little bit about when you look at plays that you've seen or books that you have read that, left a really lasting impact. Are there any that spring to mind?
Give you.
I'll tell you why. So my favorite play that I ever watched was something called 7 Streams of the River Ota. And it was, for each stream, there was meant to be an act. For each act was meant to last an hour. So there were 7 hours of play. So it was over 2 nights.
What is it called again?
7 Streams of the River Ota. I watched it when I was probably 17 or 18, and I still remember it. It's almost 30 years ago, right? And what just blew me away, it was over 2 nights. They had puppetry, they had music, they had dance. There was some sexual innuendo. It was a bit risque, but it just blew my mind because it had every different kind of medium. They had a screen with images. And I would love to watch it again now as a almost 48-year-old man and rewatch it. But it left such an abiding memory. At that point, I thought, oh, actually, I want to become an actor because it was just so powerful. I'm just curious, have you read or watched anything that you can look back and say, that made a difference?
Well, I'm going to come back to magic first because that was the one thing at my young age that left a great impression for me. So there was a magician. He's passed on. He's called Eugene Berger.
Okay.
And he was like a sage in magic. And when he was performing, he would just sit down, take a thread, tear it up, talk about life, and share how that through all these journeys in life, you can be restored or have hope. Wow. And it was about storytelling. And so him as a person really spoke to me. That was one thing. However, a book that really spoke to me at a young age was called Warrior of Light by Paul Coelho. And it's really a manual about life. And it's saying that if we believe that we are all a warrior of light in this journey of life, is that how as we are going through life, we might need to have courage, we might need to have a sense of detachment, and also a touch of madness.
Yeah.
And I love that because it really spoke to me, because if we want to try something different and try something new, and we know what we're going for, we just have to do it and not and ignore, in a sense, the noise of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this book really spoke to me, Warrior of Light.
Have you seen the Cirque du Soleil show called Car?
Yeah, I've seen all the Cirque du Soleil shows.
Which is your favorite?
O was the best because of...
That was great. Yeah.
It's because it's the most technical. It has everything inside, plus the water.
Yeah.
Car is great because of the wall, but in terms of skill, it's not as... Yeah.
It's funny because I've watched both of those. So Car, I mean, they had some deaths early on that wall. And they had to restructure the way it was designed. But because I had 2 young kids at the time and my wife, and I was just blown away because it's my kind of show. I'm a martial artist, right?
Yes.
And it was very powerful. And I was watching what these guys were doing. And one of my very good friends worked for Cirque du Soleil for 15 years, both as a performer and then involved behind the scenes. But there's nothing like a Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas. It's just on a different level.
Well, House of Dancing Waters was not bad in Hong Kong as well.
I've not seen that. It was good. Meant to be fantastic though.
It is amazing as well.
Yeah.
And right now, oh shucks, where was I in Dubai? There was a great show again, a circus show.
Oh, really?
That's coming out. And I love those because it's really integrating art and storytelling.
Yeah.
And I love that little threads of that comedic moment that always carries through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd have to say that the physicality is something, because you watch anything, these guys are just amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And we aspire to be like them, right? That's why you as a martial artist, and like for me, I love the aerial silks. Now I'm getting old, but yeah.
No, it's crazy because again, I'll have to put this up when I show you. So my friend Kanukai, I never got the chance to watch him live, which really upset me because he toured primarily in places like Montreal and Europe. So I never got the chance to watch him, and I couldn't do that. In my wildest dreams, it's too far away from what I can do physically, you know. And it's not just that, you also have to have a head for heights in what you're doing, right? Which is, again, very, very scary. And it's the thing is, it's not just the physicality, as you said, it's the storytelling, it's the elegance, it's the timing, it's, you have the music in the background. It's amazing.
Do you know how many people it takes to put a Cirque show together?
No.
They're like
crazy.
Hundreds. They're like 500 people for like a old show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My friend used to do the costumes for the old show, and
really?
I just even saw it, and she allowed me to come with her once just to do the deliveries, and I was like blown away on what goes on.
Yeah. I took my son to watch O, and it was, it's people don't realize, actually, I have to say, you know Vegas better than I do, but it's actually a great place for kids if you want to do a lot of things. There's a lot of external activities, you're in the mountains in a short period of time. Yeah. But the only thing is walking through, I took my 11-year-old son through, we're walking through a casino and I hadn't been through it. And there were naked ladies dancing. And then I said, "You're not watching, are you?" And then he goes, "No." I said, "Don't tell your mother, man. I'm going to get into a lot of trouble, son."
Well, I'm quite sure she knows by now.
She knows now. I just want to do some rapid fire, some fun questions. Can you think of a quote that has made a great impact in your life?
Well, my dad has always taught me to lead with honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
So if I do that, I would never go wrong. So that's one thing that he told me.
I love that. I mean, I wanted to ask you this, if you don't mind me asking this, but I saw this so your dad is a highly charismatic man, as are you, charismatic woman. And my wife's father was, a hugely charismatic man. How do you find working with him and partnering with him? Because I'd love to do stuff with my kids, but I don't think they will agree.
Okay, it was a difficult journey.
Yeah.
So I would normally let him take the lead. I think it's only in the recent years when he decides that he allowed me to take on, which then I'm able to step up into his shoes because I'm not the same as him. I think what my dad went through in his life has shaped who he is, and I would never be able to replicate that.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that he told me is that you be you. You don't need to be me. And I think that was one thing that I took away.
You know what's funny? My 10-year-old is my boss, though. Ivana, she runs me, mate. I always say she's my CEO. So actually, I've got no doubt I'll end up working for her. You know, it goes without saying. If you could master one art form, right, that you aren't proficient in right now, what would it be?
It would actually be, oh my goodness, I'm so terrible at this.
No, but but if you're like, even if you're talking about the arts or you're talking about, you know, illusion. So if you look at like David Blaine, he's got so many different things going. I can't even watch that guy nowadays. Some of his stuff is too over the top for me.
I think actually, if something that I would personally like to do is I would personally like to be a painter, an artist. Yeah.
Are you any good?
Okay, but I'm not great.
Okay.
You know,
that's one thing you'd like to do. I like that because I like, you know, we said this off camera. You said seem to have a lot of passion. I do. You know, like when I speak to a lot of people and they don't have any, I just say there's so many things.
Yeah,
if I had the time and the money, and I would do so many things.
Actually, the truth is, if I could do one thing, I would love to be a circus performer.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
That's why I started with aerial silks and learning the trapeze. But like you said, we're at that age. We're never going to be at that level.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true. Actually, I forget the name of the play. It'll come back to me. The guy that acted as the Flash in the TV show, when I took my girls to New York last summer, and I think it was Water Elephant Circus or something, and we went. But it was a play and a musical, but about a circus act. And it was in New York. It was great fun.
It was a dream of mine to actually set up a circus school in Singapore.
Listen, it's not too late. It's not, and think about how much fun that would be. Because like now in Singapore, things are changing. I think at some point, you know, I can see there being a proper comedy show, a full-time comedy show here. By the way, I want to do a comedy night one night because I think of all the art forms,
stand-up comedy,
I think that's probably the hardest.
Yes.
Right? Because you could just get booed off stage. You've got to read the room. And I think that would be the thing, would be the most scary for me. You know, because I've seen people get booed and heckled and this, that, and the other.
Oh, I don't think I could do that at all.
You don't reckon?
Yes, I don't reckon.
But if you do, I know one or two guys that have gone up and done it, you know, and just that really will push you, you know. But I would try about that. How do you recharge yourself spiritually, creatively? How do you take a time out? Because you've got so much going on, right? How do you do that?
Oh, I really have to just shut off. It means that at least every quarter, I have to take at least a week or three to 5 days off just for myself. Because if I don't recharge, there's nothing that I can give.
I love that.
So I think shutting off and taking time I won't call it a spiritual retreat, but literally cutting back off so that I have time to reflect. If you don't reflect about what has happened, there's nothing you can change to do anything different.
I love that.
Yeah.
And will you maybe travel, or you could be here in Singapore?
Either or. So sometimes I will go off, but one thing I want to do is then try to read a book.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's been getting harder and harder in this day and age.
Yep.
So I've been trying to read a book about emotionally regulated leaders, because I think that if I can be that, I can be that for somebody else.
Yeah. No, I tell you, because I'll share with you, you know, all the guys that work with me, I always say to them when I hire them, I want you to take 2 core holidays and look forward to it. So let's pretend this is January. I say, look, summer, June, July, August. It depends if you have children or not or whatever, but that period. And then at the end of the year, because of course you might take an odd, you know, Friday or a Monday to make a long weekend, but it gives you something to look forward to, right? And you know, some people say, well, that's if you have money. I say, no, you don't even have to go away, but hopefully if you can, because Singapore is such a small island, it's wonderful, but just to be in a new setting, and then you look forward to it. Because I find, like, you know, people always say to me, are you going away, is it work or play? For me, it's always both. Yeah. Why? Because I'm a business owner, right? But even if it's purely work, I'll find time to enjoy myself. So I just got back from Sydney late last night. I had dinner on my own twice, and I found it, you know, I just got a chance to sit down and think and reflect. And you'll laugh, I bring a book with me, I bring my notepad. You know, it's a bit cathartic, but it forces you to think when you're on your own. Because you know what I realize is even when you're on your own, it's how you choose to spend that time. Because you could just lie down watching TV.
Yeah.
or you can be up and you can be thinking things. And the last thing I would say to you is, what I find is walking. So yesterday I was invited by this guy to go to the gym for a workout in the morning because he knew I had to catch a flight midday. And then his secretary wrote to me and said 5 a.m. I thought it was going to be like 6, half 6. And normally I would say 5 a.m. no problem, but that was 3 a.m. Singapore time, right? And I've only been there for 2 days, so I said no problem. So I rock up there, did the workout, went for breakfast, and then I decided it stopped raining finally in Sydney. I walked back. It was like a 45-minute to an hour walk.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I took my time,
Yeah.
and I was just walking and enjoying it. And I was tired, but I was invigorated, and then I was pumped, right? Because like today I've got a heavy day, and then I'm flying off again tonight. So I love that. What's one belief that you held in your early years that you've completely rethought now?
One belief in my early years, that I'm always right.
Oh, like you said this on camera now, Pris. You can't take it back.
Yeah, well, when you're young, you always think that you know better.
Yeah.
But I realized that that's not true, and that's why I believe in working in a team, because it's about hearing what other people's input are and then forming a collective opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, I always say this to my team. When I hire someone or I interview them, I always say, look, I want to understand my management style before we even do this dance, which is when there's a problem or a challenge, I don't want you to ask me what to do. I want you to say, Paul, this is what I'd like to do. This is my suggestion. And then I'll only have 3 answers. I said, Pris, that's fantastic. Great job. Second case scenario, I said, Pris, that's great. Have you also considered this? And then the third one is, if you're way off base, I say, look, I think that's a bit ambitious. Let's go back. Let's sit down over a coffee, go back to the drawing board. But what I find invariably, people can't do that. They'll still ask me. And why I say that's important is when you start making recommendations and they're then executed, you'll feel good about yourself. But it also changes the way that you're viewed. Because if you're always asking what to do, no one's going to take you seriously.
Exactly. So that's why I realized that from the start, I always thought that I knew better. But I realized that if I get people to speak up and I hear what they are thinking, if I can better understanding their thought process, we can make better decisions together.
I love
And
it.
I think that that's very important as a manager.
I love that. What's one fear that you've outgrown and what helped you to outgrow it? Because you've done so many different crazy things.
The one thing that I've never been fearful of is about doing stupid things. The one thing that I've been growing out of is my insecurities. I think that that's one thing as a person, whether did I make the right decision? Is this going my way? Now, if you ask me to do a dangerous thing, that I can do at any time for some reason. It's like wired into my DNA.
Yeah.
But if it's about decision making and about looking forward for the future, for a company, for a collective, I think that that's one thing that I've been growing out of, my insecurities. It's like learning to trust my instincts.
You know what I love about that is most of us, we all have insecurities, but I find most people allow their insecurities, it prevents them from trying things. And I think that's a shame because most of us are far more capable than we realize.
And that's because I feel we don't actually dare to say it out.
Yeah.
It's because I can tell the people that's nearest to me that I'm worried that I can't do this or I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
It's by naming it that it loses power. And then I have people that can surround me that either can give me good advice and good direction. And I think that that's important for all of us.
That's brilliant advice. Now, one question I had for you is because I'm from the UK, but I'm of, Chinese, Irish parentage. And I always felt my personality was too big and outspoken for the UK, for Ireland. And it's only when I got to live and work in the US that I really felt like I was at home. Because in the US, everyone is striving to be the best version of themselves. So if you see someone's doing really well across the street, you say, wow, Priscilla's doing really well. How did you do that, Pris? I want to do that. Whereas I find in most countries around the world, it's very different. So when you moved to Vegas, being a Singaporean girl, did you find the culture very different in terms of your attempt to try something new and different?
Well, just to correct you, we didn't move to Vegas. We just traveled back and forth a lot for work.
But you were there a lot,
Yeah,
right?
we were there a lot.
Okay.
And I didn't find the culture very different because I was in a group of entertainers. So we were always looking at being the best version of ourselves. So
You're wired differently by definition.
Yeah, I was wired differently by definition. And the one thing that I was never scared of was performing live. Strangely enough, because maybe I never had the fear of failure in that sense.
Yeah.
So for me, doing management and all these things that I'm doing now, it's more scary than being a performer.
Really?
Yes.
I never would have guessed that.
Yes, because this is something that affects something larger than myself.
Yeah.
You know, I love performing. I love, like, I would say love doing stupid shit. That's why, like, there was an interview. They asked me, what would be what would be your favorite act if you could choose to do anything?
Yeah.
I wanted to be strapped to a boulder and thrown off a plane and have to escape before I crashed to death. And that was what I said. And my magic mentor said to me, no, I would advise never to do something so stupid, because everything needs to be calculated and you have to take strategic risks, right? And so that was me. I was wired like that. So I love performing. I love pushing the boundaries on stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're stick of dynamite. I absolutely love it. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
When I was young, I thought I was an extrovert, but maybe now I'm ambivert. I don't know. Is that something we grow into as we grow older?
I think things change. I think it's what your day job is as well. You know, like for me, I feel like I'm 100% an introvert, and no one believes that. You don't believe me,
No,
right?
I wouldn't believe you.
No one believes it. No one believes. So you know that this will really make you laugh. So that night I came and I first met you, I'd been invited to 3 things, and they were a little bit linked to the podcast. But I've always said no, because my energy is consumed during the working hours of the day, and in the evening I'm gonna crash. I can be with my family. But I said, you know what? No, I'm gonna do it, and then I'm going to rope my kids into things, right? So I brought Ivana to your show, which was wonderful, and we really loved it. And then later that week, I brought my son because he had booked out of army, and I'd been invited to like a podcast premiere, and then we worked the room and this, that, and the other. So for me, I'm absolutely an introvert, and no one gets that. But what I realize is you have to learn to manage your energy, right? And then that's how I get through my days, you know. So
I totally agree with that.
yeah.
Is that sometimes we give so much at work,
Yes.
and that we need our thing to invigorate us, which, like, I actually totally agree. Like sports, going to the gym, going out and being out there, just walking.
It helps, right?
It helps. It clears the mind. It helps us breathe deeper.
Yeah.
It restarts something within us, which I think is very important.
Yeah. And it was like I don't know why, but I'm trying to encourage my kids to do that as well, because I was always, don't get me wrong, no one has ever thought of me as an introvert, because I step up and I put it on. But let me tell you, like, if my wife is having an event, I will hide upstairs. And if I'm throwing a party, which is very rare, like once every 2 or 3 years, I will have so much anxiety beforehand. I will think of 100 ways how to get out of this, you know. And I will come up in my own mind with, like, you know, you've fallen down, you hurt your knee, you know. And as you get older, you try to get past it.
I totally get what you mean.
You know what I mean? What is that one aha moment where you think the lights came on and you realize, this is my calling, this is what I'm here to do?
I'm not sure I had that aha moment. You know, some people, they get it in a spark. I think mine is about the journey. Mine was that journey, learning that I could do a bit more, and if I push myself a bit more, I could get to the next step.
Yeah.
And that's where I've landed myself. And I don't think that this is the final destination. I'm not sure that this is what I'm going to be doing
No.
the next 20 years.
It's just part of it, right?
It's part of it. But what made me kept on going, especially from that young age, is actually when I had my kids, when I have my first son. When you hold somebody that's beyond you and you look at him and you say that you want to give your best so that he can have his best.
Yeah.
And I think that propelled me forward.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Who is someone that you've deeply admired from near or far, maybe outside of your work scope, that you've looked at and you thought, I really admire this person and it's helped your path? Or maybe it could be the top 3 magicians that, you know, you grew up watching.
I think one person was Jeff McBride. And up to today, he's still a master illusionist, magician, and also teacher. And he was the one person who taught me a lot about my craft. So he's the one person that shaped a lot of what I do. The other person that really shaped who I've become is really my dad. I know it's not about from actually not having a good relationship with him to now looking up to him as a person who inspires me. I think that's a great
beautiful.
Yeah.
How old were you when you didn't really like him that much? What age was that? Teenager?
Teenager to my younger days, because my dad was always traveling.
Yeah.
So when he was traveling, my mom was the one who was bringing me up, So I felt like my mom was my figure of authority. And so when my dad wanted to discipline me or speak into my life, I said, wait, you're not around. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that really changed because we worked together.
Yeah.
So that was very strange, because last time I'll tell anybody, imagine working with your dad 7 days a week and seeing him 24 hours a day.
Yes.
And people will laugh, because that was the same thing that I had. I could not be in the same space with my dad that long. Till right now, where we are at. We have a great relationship. I can seek him for advice, and I can let his wisdom speak into my life. I think that's amazing.
I was saying this to my son. I said most, especially fathers and sons, I have to say, the boy tends to idolize their father when they're younger. When they're teenage years or in early 20s, they demonize them. And then, unfortunately, when the dad dies, they humanize them. And I said to my son, I want to eliminate the second one, right? You don't actually have to idolize me. But it is interesting. And I think most of our heroes are close to home. And if you're lucky, it's one of your parents. I can tell you, my wife's my hero, right? And I learn from her every day. And I count my blessing to have that. What's one production that you've been involved with that surprised you in a way that you didn't expect?
Well, last year we did a show called Every Brilliant Thing, and it was a one person show, one woman show, where we involved all the audience members. Yes, wow. Like 70% of the audience got a role to play in that show.
Wow.
And I think that what surprised me is how actually Singaporeans now want to get more involved and are more daring to be part of a show.
Yeah.
And I think it shows me about the changing culture in Singapore. And I think that we need to have more of such things in Singapore.
It is changing.
Yeah.
I moved in 2001. It's a completely different place.
Yes, right. That's like 24 years.
Yeah, the cultural phenomenon, like now, because back then there was only like 4 or 5 channels, terrestrial TV, now the world is a lot more global. I think that's wonderful. When you're evaluating a new arts initiative, what's the first question that you're trying to ask yourself before you even go down that rabbit hole?
What value can we add to the people that's creating this art? I think that's the one thing. Because what we wanted to do is that we wanted to stand in the gap in Singapore, in the art scene, and about giving back and building up the next generation. If there's nothing that we can value add and help them in their development, then is this the right initiative for us?
I love that. That's beautiful. What would you say is an underrated skill that every creative leader should look to develop?
Spontaneity. Because if you don't know how to be spontaneous, and if you're just going by the book, you will never dare to step out.
I love that. We can all learn from that. That's very powerful. What's one misconception that people often have about the intersection of arts and social work? Because they're not often mixed.
I don't know whether there's a misconception, because it's not mixed. So I think what we are doing is very unique. Right now, people can't identify what animal we are. Yeah. Are we a tiger? Are we a lion? Or actually, maybe are we a tiger or a bear? Because we're so different.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a misconception yet. I want them to see that there's actually a connection.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing a lot with even all our data impact measurement work.
Yeah.
It's because we want to show that arts has a very powerful place in any of these social aspects. For example, in terms of mental wellness, how can we help young people have better understanding? Now, they go through workshops and talks, right? But how can you do that through an arts program? So we are trying to actually study how school-based arts initiative, theatre-based productions can actually move that needle in schools as well.
Wow. Yeah, what you are doing is so different. What's one risk that you took professionally that you feel really paid off?
I think it's actually moving into the theatre space, because theatre actually doesn't really pay off, pay well. Financially pay off.
It's a labor of love, right?
Yes. So I think that was a financial risk, because last time when we were doing entertainment, like we always say, entertainment is the big brother of arts.
Yes.
And that's the one that actually people want to sponsor, finance, and actually support. Sometimes
You don't think you want to do both?
we are trying to do both, but doing both at the same time is
hard.
very tough.
Very hard.
Yeah. So I think coming into the theater space was a challenge and something I think it's paying off. Because somebody asked me, what is the ROI of our company?
Yeah.
And if I don't, I'm going to put aside the financial talk first. To me, every person that comes in that is touched, that wants to seek help, that is daring to open up a little bit more, is the return of investment for me.
That's 10 to 100x. It's huge.
Yeah. So I just want to share, last year at the show, Every Brilliant Thing, there was a young man that came for the show. He got the ticket from a social service agency. So he came for the show, and when I met him, his countenance looked a little bit off because that show was a very interactive show. We speak to every single person who comes to the show. So I looked at him, I said, oh, don't worry, just sit here. And I kept my eye on him on the entire show. After the show, I went to speak to him. He couldn't move. He cried. And then what happened is that he told me that he was going to end his life that night.
Oh my God.
He was going to go home and from the 17th floor to take his own life.
Oh my God.
And he was turning 20. That was his day. That was his birthday.
Oh my God.
And so I sat with him. I managed to call over the crisis counselor that was on standby at the show. We spent another 2 hours with him, talking to him, and we managed to get his social worker to come down after that. And we talked to him about the hope that he had in his life. And we actually helped him to go home safely, and he lived another day. And today, he's still alive.
Wow.
And that's the power of the theater. And one thing I say is that what is the value of a life? If what we do can save lives or can bring hope to people, I think that is powerful and meaningful in its own way.
That's beautiful. I mean, you really are giving back. I love that. The person that asked you that question about ROI, why were they asking that question?
People who ask us about ROI wants to know what's the financial stability of our company.
People ask me this all the time. Are you monetizing a podcast? I said, no, not yet. Hopefully, maybe one day, but it's not my primary goal. But why are people so obsessed with this?
I don't know. You're the banker. You have to tell me.
I'm not a banker, but I deal with bankers all the time. But no, I feel that, you know what it is? It says more about them than it does about you, because they value things in terms of monetary. They can't relate to doing more. Like for me, this journey, I think I've interviewed so far for the podcast like 54 people from a variety of different areas. We haven't released all of them yet. So you do your research, you connect, you look at what the person's done, their body of work. I'm learning so much. My memory is getting better. So that is a lot of value. And I'm hoping that I will change someone's life like you're doing in my own little way. But I think it speaks more to them because they value things by the dollar. And the truth is anything meaningful takes time to build.
Yeah. I think people who ask that is really trying to see, is this company worth investing in? Is this company worth supporting? And I think that if you just talk about our outputs in terms of dollars and cents, then they're looking at the wrong question.
Yeah.
Because what we want to do is that we want to shape how Singapore is growing, how our next generation is, whether our young people are going to be mentally resilient. If we think that kids are only going to be mentally resilient because they have a workshop and a talk about it, you're sadly wrong. They're shaped by everything, right? Whether what they do in school, their sports, and hopefully how people speak into their life.
Yeah.
And we want to use our shows to speak into the lives of young people.
Just thank you, Pris. Just to wrap up, I had a guest on the show on Monday who runs this will make you smile. He set up the first MMA gym in Nevada. He's based in Las Vegas. So we did it virtually on Monday night. And he runs an amazing program for the youth. So it's for underprivileged children. He has an agreement that if they join this program, they have to commit to 2 years. Okay. They get coached for free. But the condition of that coaching is that I think it's 2 days a month, they will sit down with a counselor, and the counselor will give them tools to help them in their journey, like their life journey. And then another one of the days is to do what we know as tuition, right? Because this person's a teacher as well. And I just thought that was so impactful because it means they've got skin in the game. They're not just going there to learn how to do martial arts or boxing.
It sounds very holistic.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. So if you could design one thing today to help your youth development program for Gateway Arts moving forward, what are some of the kind of dreams that you would have to put into place something like that for your young audience members?
So I'm trying to build an ecosystem that's not just about a play and about a show, That's why it's beyond the show. How can I create other workshops that kids can get involved in that helps them better understand themselves through theater games and theater skills? Because actually we learn a lot about ourselves when we go through that
Huge.
that process. It's about it's about that workshopping that help them understand and identify what makes them tick. And I think that that's important.
Yeah, I think theatre for children. That's why I put my two older kids in it. I think my daughter's next. Because there's nowhere to hide, and if it's in a loving, encouraging environment where the kid has to get up on stage and speak to their friends, and it's very powerful and it's fun. You can't have more fun in a couple of hours as a kid.
Yeah, you want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, Pris, what are some of the projects that you're working on now that you can talk about in terms of upcoming plays that we can tune into and hopefully people can go and support you and watch it?
Well, firstly, we're having the upcoming show Brainstorm. It's happening this October from 16 October to 26 October. Come find out more at gatewayarts.sg. Please come to the theatre and watch the show. I love to see your whole family, not just you both coming down. Next year, we already have a whole lineup of 3 shows. One show is going to surround stop motion, seeing stop motion in theatre come together. I think that would also interest you.
Yeah, my son, by the way, he had a stop motion channel on YouTube for many years as a kid.
Oh, wow, really? Yeah. I think I need to get your son's contact and see what we can do together.
Yeah.
And then we have another show about suicide, which is very interesting. It's going to be a show... the original script is about a show in the UK. So it's about a Leeds football team, but we are going to convert it all into a Singaporean setting. We're going to set up a bar in the theatre. How cool is that?
Dangerous. That's so cool.
Yeah, so we're going to do different things. And then we're going to have another show called How to Be a Kid that talks about teens or young people who don't know, who have maybe suffered some loss, and I don't know, lost how to be a kid. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Pris, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. This has been surprisingly not as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Really?
For 45 minutes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You thought it was going to be scary?
Yeah.
No, you know me. No problem. Thank you.
You're a wonderful host.
Oh, you're so kind. Thanks, Pris. I appreciate it.
Thank you.